Today has legit been amazing. I'll tell you all about it. But of course, first, we need to go ahead. We need to hop in a fantasy football draft. I've been saving these. You can only do 20 of them total. I'm going to do another $3 schnauzer here. I only have 6 left. I've already done 14. Again, this is the tournament. If you're new to Underdog, this is what you should be doing. Absolutely massive tournament. Crazy that Underdog's filling it this fast, considering that it's a 20 draft limit per person. And let's see how many teams have already been. Oh, we get a good pick. We get 7. And there have already been 96,000 teams drafted. It's already halfway filled. So, crazy. Congrats, Underdog, for just somehow finding this many sickos that are wanting to draft fantasy football teams like yours truly in June. And I'll be excited to crush you sickos in this draft because I'll be taking players that you hate. I'll be passing on the players that you love, and I'll be winning money because of it. But thank you for everybody coming out, hanging out with us. And yeah, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. We're not doing another Puppy Superflex. If y'all don't know, Underdog has Superflex drafts. We did one last night. We got absolutely crushed. I never want to do Superflex drafts myself. Y'all convinced me to do it nonetheless. And it was gross enough where I don't want to do it again. We have Saram in here at pick 2. We have Vinny in here at pick 1. And let me know if we have anybody else in this draft with us or if it's just the OGs, the people that are always out here with us. The Flock League draft is going to be August 16th, my friend. Mike asking for a sprint or a marathon. I've been doing sprint and marathons off the stream in slow drafts. I don't know if I'm going to do it on stream. King says Jefferson going 1. Yes, Vinny decides to mix it up. I wish I would have been picking at 2. Saram gets an absolute gift with Vinny deciding to go Jefferson off at numero 1. I'm going to go ahead and take McCaffrey at pick 7. We've been doing this more and more. And again, I would not be surprised whatsoever if we see McCaffrey start to get mixed in inside the top 6 picks. McCaffrey is the top 5 running back for me in dollars spent. I am not really planning on changing that anytime soon. However, if he does start going ahead of Gibbs or if he does start going ahead of Lamb, I don't really want to take McCaffrey anymore. So I'm just going to get all my McCaffrey shares I can at 7. One thing I've noticed as well, and this is coming from somebody who has like Derrick Henry in 1% of his drafts. Derrick Henry is going in round 1 in a lot of these now. Early in the offseason, Derrick Henry was consistently going at the beginning of the second, but I am seeing more and more drafts where Derrick Henry is getting into the first round. Like here, Ashton Jeanty falls all the way down to 14. That team at 11 gets St. Brown and Jeanty. I'm very jealous. I would love that start, but we've talked about this. You are seeing the continued fall of Ashton Jeanty in the second round. Jay Reacts says, how many drafts are you planning on doing today? I'll probably do 3 drafts, of course. Hit that like button if you have not done so already and you want to get in some of these drafts with us. AJ Brown goes. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey over Bowers. I think Bowers could outscore Ladd. I think in a vacuum, Ladd is a worse pick than Bowers. If I was drafting like an ESPN 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I'm for sure taking Bowers. He's an absolute auto pick in that instance. But I've done enough of these Underdog drafts to know that some of my favorite values late are the tight end position, where wide receiver dries up. So I'll be mixing in Ladd McConkey here at 18. But of course, if you wanted to join a draft with us, you already know these are best ball drafts. This is a best ball tournament. So let me explain what that means in case you're new. No time commitment at all during the season. At the end of every single week, Underdog's going to submit our best starting lineup automatically for us. So if I take Ladd McConkey and then Quentin Johnston late in this draft, and randomly in week 4, Ladd McConkey scores 2 receiving touchdowns and Ladd McConkey has 0, then actually Quentin Johnston will go into my starting lineup and Ladd McConkey will fall to my bench. At the same time, we're going to be going extremely deep in these drafts. In round 18, I've been taking guys like Amari Cooper. It gets that gross, so there's going to be no waiver wire in this league either. So you draft a team, And you could check in on it throughout the season, but in reality, you're never doing anything with it ever again. There are no trades either. And if you're wondering, hey, how is this tournament $3 to enter, 100,000 for first? It's because you're going to be going up against the 11 other teams that you draft with in weeks 1 through 14. The 2 highest scoring teams in that stretch will advance to the fantasy football playoff tournament. And in week 15, you'll be put in a 10-player pool. If you're the highest scoring team in that 10-player pool, you advance to week 16, where you do that same thing again. If you do it again, you advance to week 17, and you're in a 310-person final for week 17 with 100,000 for first. And thank God your boy decided to pass on Brock Bowers for Ladd McConkey in round 2, because he is going to be able to take Trey McBride at pick 31. And I think Trey McBride could outscore any wide receiver that was drafted after Brian Thomas. Love McBride at 31. Taking Bowers at 18 would not have allowed us to do this. So like I said, I prefer Bowers over Ladd. But I've done enough of these drafts to know that I'm going to get some tight ends that I really like later on. So I would rather have Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers personally. I'm sorry, Ladd McConkey and Trey McBride. I'd rather have both of them if I could. But I'd rather have Ladd McConkey and Trey McBride than I would Brock Bowers and Tyreek Hill. And of course, you may disagree with that. And if you prefer Brock Bowers and Tyreek Hill, go ahead, take Brock Bowers at 18. No harm to you. Okay. A asks, another $3 after this. You need to save your BBM entries, brother. I think I need to save. Oh, we're going to get Tet McMillan. Very easy. We're just going to need another wide receiver here. So we'll go Tet at 42. And again, going back to that structure of these best ball tournaments, having upside of weeks 15, 16, 17 is absolutely massive. So you are going to see these rookies inflated a bit in price, and I think they probably should be. But of course, if you wanted to join a draft with us, we're doing these every single day. I have for years and years and years. I draft hundreds of teams every offseason. I won a decent amount of money on this back in the day. And if you wanted to join a draft with us, I always leave the link that says draft with us here in the live chat description as well as comment section. You could also just scan the QR code on the screen as well if you didn't want to go through that link. And if you use promo code FLOCK, you're going to get all my 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Guide cheat sheets. Plus, on top of that, you will be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. And you're pretty much able to play Underdog in any state. You can see the map here to see if Underdog is available in your state. But it's not all the big ones. It's in California, Texas, New York, Florida, etc., etc., etc. But let me take that down. And one thing I need to show y'all real quick is, obviously there's a game tonight. Y'all know we've had a lot of success with the NBA pick'ems. Not because I'm good at pick'em, not because I know a ton about the NBA, but because I'm doing two simple things. One, I'm telling the FSE guys on their pick'em slips. But more importantly than that, way more importantly than that, I'm just following the promos. So, if you want to see what... real quick, let's get ready to make another pick here. Probably go... I'm going to go, just full transparency, I was going to go Chuba or Ridley. Chuba goes, so we'll just continue to play catch up. We'll take Calvin Ridley here at wide receiver. But since we started taking advantage of these promos on Underdog, here have been our pick'ems. So we started with the Halliburton Brunson. I think one of these was a free pick, right? Yeah, Brunson was a free pick. That's why I did this. But you can go ahead and see all the results. We got 3 picks away from winning like $7,800 on a $10 entry here. We lost the last one, which I apologize for, but let me show y'all the pick'em entry that we have for tonight. And this is the same app. This is Underdog. Just a different tab on the same app. Live pick'em. This is the pick'em that we have right now. This is a 3 pick'em entry, so we only need to get 2 of these correct. If we get all 3 correct, we turn $30 into $150. But we're going Chet higher than rebounds and points, Shea higher than blocks and steals, and Pascal Siakam fewer than fantasy points. And I just tailed the FSC guys. No explanation for why. Other than the FSC guys have been crushing for us. We'll probably take another wide receiver on the... Actually, no, never mind. Maybe get a running back value. There are 2 running backs that I like on the board here. Jawan Jennings goes 63. So it actually looks likely that we're going to get one of these running backs. So full transparency, the guys that I'd consider here, R.G. Harvey, Trevion Henderson, Chris Olave. I already put out the video. Y'all know I haven't really been drafting any Deebo Samuel. So we're going to get a running back between R.J. Harvey, Trevion Henderson. Now, full transparency, if you check out my rankings, I have Trevion Henderson ranked ahead of R.J. Harvey. However, if you look at the ADP with how it is set up, with Harvey having a very similar ADP to Calvin Ridley, through the context of this tournament, there are going to be a lot of teams that have drafted R.J. Harvey in round 5. So if we wanted more of a unique build, I think it's going to be a little more unique for us getting R.J. Harvey in round 6 rather than Henderson. And while I do have Henderson ranked higher, it's not like I have a massive, massive gap between these guys, right? So, I mean, we can go ahead. We can just take R.J. Harvey. Joseph says, Mason, if you haven't seen these Bigfoot vlogs, you're missing out, man. Let me know. Let me know. Teague says, crazy how different my drafting is from earlier this season. We still have so much time to go. Yeah, the draft board definitely changes a bunch through the offseason. I think the draft board gets a lot more accurate as you get closer to the season, which is funny because everybody always acts like drafters who come in like July, August, September, they're not as good as the drafters that were drafting in January, February, March. There were people doing these underdog drafts before the NFL draft started. And in reality, I'm not saying that the drafters that come in August are better. Of course, I'm not saying that, but I think they're really close to about the same. Alec asking when we'll be posting an updated wide receiver rankings. I don't know. I probably want to do some strategy videos and letting y'all know like my most common builds and stuff before I dive into that. So we can go Caleb as our third running back. Swift is definitely a riser. I didn't draft too much of Caleb before Rodgers signed, but post Rodgers signing, it's not like Rodgers is the most mobile quarterback in the world at this point of his career. I think you can see a decent amount of checkdowns, while at the same time, with Caleb Johnson, with Rodgers going to Pittsburgh, we should expect more trips to the red zone overall. So it's a good running back class. I definitely want to be overweight the rookie running backs this year and underweight the rookie receivers. But it looks like we're just overweight this rookie class overall because, I mean, we have 3 rookies within the first 7 rounds. Augusta says, reports of Miles Sanders getting first-team reps with the Cowboys. Yeah, I've definitely been mixing in Miles Sanders from round 18. A lot of blurbs that come out in June, I just kind of ignore, but I think the Miles Sanders one is reasonable enough to take him in round 18. Caleb says, what's your bold take for redraft fantasy this year? It's just hard to know before like the redraft ADP comes out because the ADP in like your home redraft league on ESPN, Yahoo, wherever it is going to be very different than Underdog. Like Underdog, you're going to see Rashee Rice go in the 2nd round. In your home redraft league, Rice may go in like round 4. And you may see every single YouTuber on this app, including myself, make a video going, oh my gosh, Rashee Rice in round 4, take this guy right now. I'm going to go Pittman over Igbuka. Aaron Jones is a great value, but we need another receiver. Y'all know Pittman was my most drafted wide receiver. We used to get him a lot later than this. Him and Downs have both moved up in drafts. But realistically, compared to the other receivers, like with Igbuka, I don't want to take our 4th rookie within the first 8 rounds. Like I would like to have some production at the beginning of the season. We can go ahead and we can pull this up real quick. LC says Amir White got a lot of first-team reps. Yeah, I'm not saying like, oh, Miles Sanders is taking first-team reps, so you should draft him ahead of Javonte Williams by any means. But I'm saying it's not like Javonte's any good. It's not like Jadon Blue's any good. It's not like Miles Sanders is any good. But it's a good situation. So if you wanted to make some in round 18, you're fine to do so. Looking at Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver 50 this past season, but the previous 3 years, wide receiver 14, 21, 25. And what happened when he was the wide receiver 50? The dude broke his back. So again, my most drafted receiver, and I do not feel bad about it at all. We'll take Keon. I'm fine with it. We need another receiver. If we're going to be looking at the quarterback potential stacking options, like we could go with Brock Purdy, pair him up with McCaffrey. But in reality, we have a lot of these quarterbacks that we can still target. We can still go after Herbert. We can still go after Young. We can still go after Cam Ward. And if Purdy makes it back around to us in round 10, I feel like that's more compelling for a Purdy CMC stack. Where obviously the ideal Purdy stacks are going to be with like Kittle, Pierce Hall, Ayuk, etc., etc. Ben says, does Warren affect Pittman's value? I think Warren almost equally affects Downs and Pittman. And again, I wouldn't advocate for anybody to draft Michael Pittman Jr. as like the wide receiver 14, which is where he finished in 2023. But the reason he's my most drafted guy is, at least at the time when we were hammering him and we made that video, he was getting drafted as a wide receiver 5 in fantasy. So it's like, yeah, he's kind of getting drafted at his floor. I'm going to be all over that. Okay, Scattaboo, Etienne, both go. Looking at other potential quarterbacks. So this team can't go with another QB. They already have Hurts and Mahomes. They only have Najee Harris at running back, so you'd assume that they have to slam some running backs here with like Charbonnet. Could be wrong, though. It's a $3 draft. You never know. They go Javonte. Yeah, so this team goes Shaheed. So we will take Brock Purdy. Again, I want to reiterate, it's not like having Purdy stacked up with McCaffrey is the most ideal thing in the world. But we can make an argument that we have some correlation there. We get Purdy 9 picks after ADP. We don't have a quarterback yet. Goff doesn't pair up with anybody for us. Neither does Dak. Neither does May. I'm not super compelled to take Jonnu Smith here. Jonnu's been one of the biggest fallers in drafts as of late. So we'll go ahead. We will take Brock Purdy, and we're definitely going to draft 3 quarterbacks no matter what. So we can like go with Bryce Young late, Cam Ward late, and then have like Purdy for the advancement and hope that some of those other quarterbacks give us the spike weeks. Aleem says, why aren't there any underdog promos for the NBA Finals tonight? There's the extender promo, which is what I took advantage of. So there was like the 80% boost. I already showed you my pick'em. Show you again, just in case you didn't see it. But if you've been doing the extender, you should have an 80% boost. And for anybody watching this, if you're new to Underdog, you'll also get a free pick. That's Shea, higher, lower, half a point. But obviously, I'm assuming everybody watching this, or 99% of people watching this, have been on Underdog already. McCarthy goes 121. Not going to say that it's a reach for McCarthy whatsoever. I think McCarthy projects out very similar to the other quarterbacks in this range, but in comparison to where his ADP is, definitely a steep price to pay. Perla says he got a Tyrese free square. Okay, Jack Bash off the board, 125. I'm trying to stray somewhat away from these rookies as we have 3 of our first 7 picks being rookies. I'm going to go ahead, take Justin Herbert. I'm not a big fan of Kyle Williams, not a big fan of Marvin Mims here. Some of my favorite players in this range are going to be the tight ends like Tyler Warren and Loveland, but they're both gone already. Us going Justin Herbert does pair up with Ladd McConkey for us, and we can still go with the third quarterback very late. We can still go with Bryce Young, Cam Ward, and easily afford them. It'd be different if like we had some great wide receiver falling to us or some great running back where it's like, I feel bad if we pass on this kind of value here, but I don't necessarily see that kind of player on the board at 127 at this point. Okay. Teague says Kate on fire. I think I maybe already told y'all this, but I'm not like trying to be super overweight Kate Otten by any means, and I'll double check with where it sits right now. But last I checked, I had like only 7% Kate Otten, but I've done, I think like 6 $500 drafts at this point, something around there. And I took Kate Otten in 3 of them. So even though I'm not like trying to be overweight Kate Otten, he is still by far and away like my most invested into player. Even though I've only taken him in 7% of drafts. It's just like the drafts that he did end up falling to us in. Or we did need a third tight end whenever he was on the board or whatever. Ended up being the high dollar ones. Y'all know I think Marvin Mims is one of the worst picks on the board. I actually kind of like the tight ends in this range. I think we can go Dallas Goedert and then call it a day at tight ends. You can make an argument as well to go with a running back like Ray Davis here. But I don't know. I really like the tight ends in rounds, really like 10 through 12. So we'll take them. And then now at running back, we're rolling with McCaffrey. And then we have a couple rookies with RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson. Wide receiver, we have Ladd McConkey, Ted McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman Jr., Keon Coleman. We're going bully tight end or pseudo bully tight end with Trey McBride and Dallas Goedert. We have Purdy paired up with McCaffrey, and we have Herbert paired up with Ladd McConkey. Okay. The big Q goes to Vinny at 144. Obviously, it would have been nice for us to get the big Q at 151. One, I think is a great value at ADP. One of my most drafted players, if not my most drafted. And two, we have Justin Herbert, but it is what it is. Garindo off 147. Michael Penix goes 148. I know who we want. We're really only going to be looking at wide receiver, quarterback, running back the rest of this draft. Again, we can't take another tight end when we already have McBride and Dallas Goedert. Leggett goes 149. Let's see what Stronger does. They don't have a potential Tua stack. Neither do we. They go Geno. Dobbins was the guy I wanted. We're going to get Dobbins. We'll monopolize all the points in the Denver backfields. Hopefully, we can bank on this being an offense that has a super strong offensive line, good coaching staff, good quarterback play, and positive game script. Ben says he also loves pairing Harvey and Dobbins in best ball. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way and go like, oh, I drafted RJ Harvey, so I absolutely need J.K. Dobbins. But at this kind of price point, to get Dobbins at 151, I'm 100% down for it. Fried Bologna says, I'm on Underdog now. Are you jumping in at any more $3 next? So I only have 6 $3 drafts left before I'm maxed out of that tournament. And obviously Underdog will keep dropping $3 tournaments all off season long. But I'm trying to save my entries in this $3 tournament for future live streams. So what I'll probably do is the next 2 drafts we may get in Best Ball Mania ones. We'll see. Maybe we're definitely going to do a Best Ball Mania next. And then maybe we go back to a $3 draft at the very end. But we'll see. Cameron says, in your experience, what teams did the best early off season or closer to the season? So here is what has been explained to me. At least, okay. I think we'll probably go Bryce Young. Pair up Bryce Young, Ted McMillan, and then just go running back, wide receiver through the rest of this draft. We definitely know we want to have a third quarterback going with like a QB at 114, 127. I think a third quarterback would be advantageous, especially when it does correlate with our team. The weakness with our team very easily is going to be wide receiver. Like if this team's going to work out, we need Ted McMillan to absolutely smash. We don't necessarily need like a Jefferson or Chase type rookie season, but we need at least like a Calvin Ridley type rookie season. So here's what's been explained to me in terms of like teams that are drafted early in the offseason versus closer to the year in these Underdog tournaments. Now, I want to say a couple things. It doesn't matter for me whatsoever because I personally am going to be drafting teams all year round. If I come out here and say I'm going to draft 400 teams this year, I can't go like, oh, I'm going to draft 400 teams this year, but I get a 0.01% better edge if I do it in the month of July. So I'm going to just wait till July to draft all my teams. I can't. I'm spamming drafts from the time the offseason or time the NFL, time Best Ball Mania drops till the very start of the season. But what I've been told, or what I've heard on other people say, is if you are looking at drafts that are completed very early in the offseason, like May and June, you're going to see very wide ranges of outcomes. You're going to see absolute garbage teams because you're going to see people going through and you're going to see people taking guys in round 16, 17, 18 that may not even be on an NFL team. Like way back in the day, I was taking a lot of Will Fuller, thinking like, oh, Will Fuller is going to be signing with somebody, blah, blah, blah. Will Fuller never signs, and those teams just have incredibly low scores. But so the average score of a team that's drafted in like May and June is going to be lower than the average score of a team that's going to be drafted. We'll take Roschon. I think Roschon's safer now that you have Dobbins in Denver and now that you have Chubb in Houston. But once we go Roschon Johnson around 16, 17, 18, we're going to have to just take 3 bum receivers. But anyway, so those teams that are drafted in May and June will on average have lower scores. But it will be a wider range of outcomes where you are going to get some incredible values. There are a lot of teams where I drafted J.K. Dobbins at the very, very end of the draft, and now that he's signed, he goes in round 13. Hopefully, there are a lot of teams that I'm going to be drafting Keenan Allen at the very end of the draft, and he re-signs, and I'm not re-signs with Chicago, but he goes to a different team, and then all of a sudden, Keenan Allen jumps up 3 to 4 rounds. Like, what happens, say, in late July, we get a report Bijan Robinson tears his ACL. All of a sudden, Tyler Algier jumps 9 rounds in these drafts. So drafting in May and June, you will have a higher ceiling with those teams that you draft. Whereas when you're drafting in August, you're going to have a much better idea of the depth charts, of the usage of these players. So the average score for a team that's drafted in August will be higher than the average score than a team that's drafted in May and June. Ryan says he got Rashee Rice pick 45 in early May. Yeah. So I think that there are merits to be drafting early. I think that there are merits to be drafting late. Again, for me personally, because I'm going to be drafting so many teams, it frankly doesn't really matter. I just need to draft early, mid, and late. We'll go Michael Wilson at 186. Fry Bologna says, I think Keenan signs back with the Chargers or someone else who needs a third. I don't think Keenan signed with Los Angeles because I think what Ladd McConkey does is just like a better version of Keenan at this point. I think Keenan going to Arizona, I think would make a lot of sense. Actually, you can make an argument that Trey McBride just is a better version of Keenan. But anyway, we take Michael Wilson. So maybe we make a consolidated bet having Michael Wilson and McBride on the same squad that, I don't know, you get more passing volume in Arizona than you were expecting. Maybe Marvin Harrison just isn't him. But anyway, at receiver, we have Ladd, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman Jr., Keon Coleman, Michael Wilson, and then we're going to take 2 more bums here at the end. So wide receiver will be the reason that this team doesn't make any noise. Running back, we're great with CMC, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, Roschon. Quarterback, we're solid with Purdy, Herbert, Young. Tight end, we're elite with McBride and Goddard. The massive concern is the wide receiver position of this team. As Z says, Keenan to New England. I think Keenan to New England would make a lot of sense. Maxwell says Keenan, Devontae Adams, wide receiver duo inbound. Maybe it makes sense in Los Angeles. Obviously, they have a thin wide receiver depth chart behind Puka and Adams. I'm not a big Jalen Coker guy whatsoever, but if we ever were going to take him, I mean, we just need to kind of take shots at wide receiver here, and we have Bryce Young as well. So even though I'm not a big fan of drafting Jalen Coker, I've taken very little of him. We will mix him in here. But let's go ahead and let's queue up some more wide receivers. And we will hop into our next drafts. We have Ridley. Maybe that makes sense. Wicks. Let's see. Troy Franklin. Mix in a Jordan Whittington as well. Very minimum, we'll have one more wide receiver coming our way. So let's go ahead and let's get into BBM. Again, I want to reiterate, if you're new to Underdog, I would not recommend getting in Best Ball Mania drafts. At least not initially. Do a bunch of $3 drafts. I do $23 drafts before you ever do like a $25 one. Okay, so we are in, and we get the one spot. So this will be a chase builds. Will be interesting to see what we can do beyond just chase here. But let me know if you were in this draft with us. We got Desire Best in here at pick numero 3. Lee says, do you ever do Underdog mock drafts? Every Underdog draft does have dollars attached to it. Honestly, I just kind of treat the $3 drafts as if they're mocks. And I do as many $3 drafts as I possibly can. That way I'm ready for the drafts I care about a bunch. Hard Dip is in at pick 2. Ryan is in at pick 4. Teague is in at pick 11. Cale Elliott is in at pick 6. Vinny is in at pick 8. Lord Jon Snow is in at pick 12. So it seems like the vast majority of people in this draft with us are in this live stream. We know the people at 2, 3, 4 are all in this stream. So your boy's going to have to be very careful to give my thoughts until I'm actually on the clock. Don't hate me for it. But we're going to have to. Jefferson goes at 2. Hunter says, so are we just going with the Jamar and Burrow stack? Isn't that what the last winner did? Yeah, so the last winner had a complete Bengals onslaught. So the winner of BBM last year, what was the first place prize of BBM? Was it 3 million, 2 million, 1 million? What was it? 1.5 million? But whoever won that last year had Chase, Higgins, Burrow, Chase Brown, and Jermaine Burton. I think I don't want to make this up, but he may have had Mike Gesicki as well. Like, if he had a Cincinnati, if you can name a Cincinnati Bengal, it was on this dude's team. Okay. Malik Neighbor is off at 10. Genty goes at 11. Super standard draft so far. It does seem like McCaffrey is a lock to go ahead of Genty in these drafts at this point. I don't know if their ADP is officially flipped, but it seems like over the past week or two, every draft that I'm in, I see CMC go ahead of Genty. Team at 11 decides to go Genty Bowers. Team at 12 gets unique with Nico London. It allows the team at 10 to get unique with Neighbors Brian Thomas as well. That is kind of the issue when you're picking at the turn here. Is like Nico and Brian Thomas is definitely the best way to start. But it's like every team in Best Ball Mania that picks at 12 goes Nico, Brian Thomas. So when you're in the middle of the board, you can kind of just let the values fall to you and you always kind of get a unique team. But if you're like at the very beginning, if your team's 1, 2, or 3, or if your team's 10, 11, 12, just like taking overs at the top of ADP, a lot of times, especially early in the draft, does give you just kind of a chalk build that you're going to run into other teams with the same start in this tournament. I didn't even notice we got Lee Watley in here at 9 as well. Ben Fine says he got Gibbs in at pick 6 in one of these drafts. Peter says, where does Jaden Blue go normally? I've definitely noticed Jaden Blue falling down boards a lot. Like I had absolutely 0 Jaden Blue. We made the video of the 6 running backs I'd never draft. I'm not saying he's falling because we made that video. Do not try to twist that around. But I think if you go back to that video, like when we made it, he had an ADP of 131. Now his ADP is 138, so he's definitely falling, which is kind of funny because if anything, I think he should almost be rising given the fact that, okay. We'll have the very boring builds. We'll build around that Cincinnati-Arizona game in week 17 and hope that in week 17, this team can be there and we have an absolute blowout between the Bengals and the Cardinals. The concern with going like McBride, Harrison here, to be honest with you, is it's very difficult to find running backs that you like at the 4 or 5 turn now in comparison to where we were before Nick Chubb signed with Houston. Like Mixon was viable in this range. Now that Mixon's not viable and you get like Travis Hunter falling to you sometimes here, I kind of do like starting with one running back through the first 3 rounds a little bit more than I did a month ago. But we'll make it work no matter what. We'll try it. But anyway, yeah, so Jaden Blue's been falling down draft boards a ton, which is kind of funny because I would almost say that from where we stood a month ago when we were calling Jaden Blue one of the worst picks in these drafts, like he almost seems better off now that Dobbins and Nick Chubb are no longer threats to go to Dallas. Now, of course, you get the report like, oh, Miles Sanders may be viable here. It's 100% a possibility. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not telling you to draft Miles Sanders ahead of Jaden Blue. Like, let's all be on the same page. It is very much a possibility that Miles Sanders is just playing straight up over Jaden Blue this season from start to finish. I know Miles Sanders isn't good, but the thing about Jaden Blue and why we made that video saying I haven't drafted him at all, is because while I want to give you the hook 'em horns, Jaden Blue ain't a good running back either. So it is what it is. Ben says Jaden Blue has the highest upside. Let me pull this up. Like, what's exciting about the Jaden Blue profile? SZ says Blue reminds me of Vidal last year. I think that's a good comp. I literally thought this same exact thing. Less than 200 pounds, 5th round pick. I guess the receiving usage was nice at Texas. Like he did have an 11% team target share. But just to get like a little range of like the type of prospect Jaden Blue is, this is the prospects page on the site. Right around like Tracy, Kevin Harris, Myles Gaskin, Joshua Kelly, Evan Hull, Jordan James, Don Lobb, Donnell Pumphrey, Damian Harris. And like, keep in mind, Tyron Tracy was a wide receiver, right? So he was a wide receiver in college. Tyron Tracy in the prospect models, of course, not going to look good. Benny Snell, Zamir White, Isaac Rindo, Dwayne McBride, Alexander Madison. The only running back that really came from this range and absolutely smashed was Kyron Williams. And Kyron Williams was the outlier of all outliers. We'll get James Cook. Actually, that's a very exciting turn for us. I think going James Cook, Jamison Williams here at the 4-5 turn is actually going to make our team somewhat unique. And again, like we discussed previously, running backs are just going to be a little bit tougher to come by here at the 4-5 turn now that you are looking at Joe Mixon falling to the end of the 5th due to the Nick Chubb signing. What will be a very interesting dynamic on this draft board is typically if you have the Jamar Chase team, but you do not have T. Higgins, by deciding to pass on Joe Burrow at the 4-5 turn, you are sacrificing him to the T. Higgins team, where the T. Higgins team will typically take him in round 6. However, that may not be the case in this draft, because if you look at the T. Higgins team is built around the Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack. Now, that doesn't mean the team at 2 will never take Joe Burrow at pick 71. It's definitely a possibility. They could obviously do whatever the hell they want. But I think having Jalen Hurts makes them a lot less likely to take Joe Burrow. Where if they went like Devonta Smith and George Pickens here at the 4-5 turn, then I would almost guarantee with 100% certainty that they would be taking Joe Burrow at 71 and we'd have no shot at Burrow. But we'll see. Dylan says, do you ever stack Jalen Hurts and Saquon? If I have Saquon, I'm not going out of my way trying to target Jalen Hurts because I do think they kind of cap each other's ceiling just given where the Jalen Hurts spike weeks come from. So we can kind of see this ourselves here, right? So one thing that you can do on the site, and we did this for the first time yesterday, is go to the rankings page. I'll click best ball so you don't lose your mind looking at the dynasty rankings. And it's not super important, the actual rankings itself, but let me look at the Eagles. Philly. Okay, so let's look at where these spike weeks come from for Barkley in comparison to Jalen Hurts. Because the thing with Jalen Hurts is a lot of these spike weeks, you're going to get 85 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. It's the dude has 3 rushing touchdowns in a single week. So like the best Jalen Hurts weeks, say 29 or 28 points or more, right? Weeks 8, 9, 10, 15. Week 8 comes from 3 rushing touchdowns. So what did Barkley do in week 8? He had 12 points. Week 9, they both go off. Jalen Hurts is the QB2 that week, and Barkley is the RB1. Week 10, you have Jalen Hurts going off, but Barkley only scores 8.8 points because Jalen Hurts takes both rushing touchdowns at the goal line. So just looking at the dynamic of like the big weeks that you get from Hurts kind of don't line up with the big weeks that you get from Barkley. So if I have Barkley, I'm not going out of my way to grab Jalen Hurts. However, like say this team at 2 decided to go Saquon Barkley at 2 and then took Devonta Smith at pick 47, which I absolutely love that Devonta Smith price point. Don't get me wrong. Will having Barkley stop me from drafting Jalen Hurts? No. But I'm just not going to go out of my way for it. So that team at 5 ends up taking Joe Burrow, so we're not going to get Burrow for Chase after all, but not the end of the world here. Okay. Laporta goes 69. Myers goes 70. Quinshawn off. So we'll take Montgomery for sure. Y'all know I'm not a big Debo guy. We've talked about that at length. I think we may just double tap the running back position. Let me revisit what's going to be available to us on the way back around. I'm assuming because we both have Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride that Kyler's almost guaranteed for us. So the next turn, like we could go Kyler and a receiver in this range. And also we already have Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, Jameson. We take our first running back off the board at pick 48. So I think we can afford to go running back here at the turn. Montgomery's less exciting for me now than he was previously, given the downgrade that you have to assume the Detroit Lions offensive line has. But we will take Montgomery and Caleb, 72-73. Overall, I think it's a strong team. Wide receiver, we have Chase, Harrison, Jameson. We have the elite tight end with McBride. Slowly but surely, I'm just drafting a ton of McBride here. And then running back, we have James Cook, Montgomery, Caleb Johnson. So I don't think we're too far behind at running back. And I know we said this in the last draft because we also drafted Caleb Johnson at like 79 in the last one. But I am more excited about Caleb Johnson now than I was previously, given the additional red zone trips that having Aaron Rodgers under center should bring to the offense in comparison to Mason Rudolph. Hi, this is Mason. What's your usual exposure of the elite quarterbacks in BBM? Really depends on the year. Like one thing that I think Best Ball Mania or just underdog drafters are horrible at. And okay, usually y'all know I clown on myself all the time. I understand that I'm stupid, but there are like 1 or 2 things that I'm pretty good at. And the 2 things that I think I'm good at in comparison to the underdog community. There maybe are only 2 things. 1, not falling for whoever gave you a big week in week 17. Not falling just for Gabe Davis back in the day. Not falling for Marvin Mims this year. These players that their spike week came in week 17 when it mattered most last season and thinking that's predictive whatsoever what's going to happen the following year. And the second thing is, I think the underdog community is very, very, very bad at just looking at exactly what worked last year and thinking that exact same thing is going to work this next season. So if you go back to say like the year where I won multiple tournaments and got 16th place in Best Ball Mania, that was a year in which drafting the elite quarterbacks absolutely crushed. My second most drafted player that season was Patrick Mahomes. I went all into the elite quarterbacks when we could. Worked out very well. The following year, if y'all remember, underdog drafters went, oh, the elite quarterbacks crushed in rounds 4 and 5. That means we should take them in rounds 1 and 2. And of course, the elite quarterback build got crushed. It was horrible if you were taking them there. So you've kind of seen this dynamic go over the years with quarterbacks on underdog, where if you can get that elite quarterback in like round 5, You can take down tournaments from it. But when you start pushing the elite quarterbacks into like the second round, it becomes a lot tougher. I think the elite quarterbacks this year are appropriately priced. I'm not trying to fade them. This isn't like the season where they were going at the 1-2 turn, but also it's not the year in which we're getting all the elite quarterbacks in rounds 4 and 5. So, long way to say that I am not trying to make a hard stance on the elite quarterbacks this season. I think that they are appropriately priced. I will search every single one. I'm slightly underweight Jalen Hurts. I am like 8.7% Josh Allen, so I'm right in line there. I'm 10.7% Lamar. Daniels is the only elite quarterback that I am really underweight. Kyler Murray did end up going from us. I've taken a decent amount of Kyler. So now we definitely need to make a pivot, right? We are for sure going to be taking Jaden Higgins here. Jaden Higgins is going to open us up with another possibility of a different quarterback. One thing that we have to avoid at this point, given the fact that Kale decided to take Kyler from us. And here, I'm sorry, let me just think through this. I think I kind of want to take Jalen Warren. Because the thing with the other wide receivers that are going to be on the board here, I know you can go Bo Nix and go Marvin Mims with the next pick, but I just think that that's going to be one of the worst picks on the board. So we built ourselves around trying to get Joe Burrow at 72 or getting what I thought was almost guaranteed with Kyler Murray making it back to us. But once we see those quarterbacks go, a lot of our early picks were just around those two offenses. So now our quarterback stacks are kind of out the window. Like round 1, that quarterback's no longer available. Round 2, that quarterback's no longer available. Round 3, that quarterback's not available. Round 4, that quarterback's not available. So when we're here at like rounds 8 and 9, I kind of want to start taking offenses where their quarterbacks aren't going to go till late because we need additional options. So Jaden Higgins does open up the door for us to potentially be able to get CJ Stroud. Taking Keon Coleman doesn't really do anything for us because Josh Allen's already gone. I don't want another receiver that their quarterback's not going to be available. Obviously, we can go with Jared Goff already with Jamison Williams, but we're not going to be taking Jared Goff at 97. Then we're just sacrificing any upside that we have to win the tournament. Your boy Rob, welcome to being a mother flocker, my guy. P47W says Goff is going to be a pumpkin this year with the new OC. I mean, the thing is, if you think that this Detroit Lions offense is going to be garbage this season with the new offensive coordinator and with the offensive line downgrades, we've already lost this tournament. For us to go Jameson at 49 and Dave Montgomery at 72, for us to go with two Detroit Lions at rounds 5 and 6, the only way that I can convince myself that this $25 buy-in has any shot to win $2 million is if I can convince myself that Ben Johnson leaving is not really going to matter. That Jared Goff's going to be just fine regardless. Because any other world that we could possibly live in, I've already lost. And Jared Goff does indeed go off to the Amon-Ra St. Brown team. So Goff is not available for us either. Drake May goes 114. So if we were to go with another running back here at the turn, we're going to be done drafting running backs. 5 running backs inside the first 10 or 11 rounds, you're done. Najee goes 115. Charbonnet 116. Taking CJ Stroud at 120 or 121 when he has ADP of 136 is just way too early. There's just no way we could do that. Again, if we're going to have to reach that far to complete our stacks, there are just going to be other teams in the tournament that crush us. Like, we're going to have to get lucky in this draft to find quarterbacks, and we're going to have to get lucky in weeks 114 through 14 to advance. We're going to have to get lucky in week 15, 16, and 17. Kyle Williams goes. Jonnu Smith, this is going to be a player in which we can get a quarterback later, right? Jonnu at least gives us Tua. I prefer Loveland and Tyler Warren, but we really need to start putting ourselves in a position in which some of these quarterbacks are available. And then again, just going back to what we were talking about previously, I absolutely hate the Christian Kirk price, but we've already boxed ourselves into a corner in that we're kind of relying on getting CJ Stroud on the way back around in round 12. So we are going to take Christian Kirk at 121, pair him up with Jaden Higgins, and potentially set ourselves up a double stack with Stroud. So now the quarterbacks that we have options for are going to be Stroud as well as Tua. Quarterbacks that are on the board, you have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 viable picks at quarterback left. So I think we're in a good spot. Like if I were to go through and revisit anything in this draft, rounds 1 through 3, I'm not changing anything. 4, 5, no, Jameson and James Cook were the correct picks. Makes the team unique. Maybe Montgomery, Caleb here. We should have taken another quarterback to give ourselves an option. Because the thing, by the time we are on the clock at pick 72, we already know at this point that we are not going to be able to get another. I mean, we're not going to be able to get Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's already gone. So we're only really banking on Kyler. And if, based off of us having both Harrison and McBride, I thought it was almost a foregone conclusion that we were going to get Kyler. But even in that instance, if instead of taking like Caleb Johnson here, we go Ricky Pearsall, we go Matthew Golden, we go Stephon Diggs, we go Jaden Reed, we go with any of these other receivers, it does open us up for another possibility of quarterback later. So if there's going to be a pick that I think we need to take back in this draft, I think it would probably need to be one of the running backs with either Montgomery or Caleb. And now we just saw CJ Stroud go to an unstacked, a team with no Texans. So it is what it is. That's our next quarterback that we are no longer able to get. Ray Davis off 138. And we cannot take another tight end. When we are sitting with McBride, Jonnu, no matter what makes it to us, tight end's off the board. This team has Hurts and McCarthy. They can't take another QB. This team has Bo Nix and Dak. I'd assume they don't take another. So it looks like we're going to grab Jordan Love unstacked at 144. Looking at the optionality that we have for receivers later, we have Dobbs with an ADP 158. We could go with Dontavian Wicks, Savion Williams around 18. So we're for sure going to go Jordan Love here. The question is, like, what do we decide to do beyond this? Penix, we have no last-minute stacking options. We can reach on Tua as well. I think that's what we're probably going to do. I think we go Jordan, Love, and Tua. Because Tua, we would have to dodge the Tyreek, Waddle, and Achane teams. We have Jonnu, so that does give us some correlation. So we'll take Tua here as our second quarterback. And then, so far at wide receiver, we are sitting with Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, Jameson Williams, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk. The running back, we have James Cook, Dave Montgomery, Caleb Johnson, Jalen Warren. Tight end, we have Trey McBride, Jonnu Smith. Quarterback, we have Jordan Love unstacked, and we have Tua paired up with Jonnu. Definitely not an ideal team. The ideal situation is we would have got CJ Stroud at 144 instead of Love. And we would have gotten either Burrow at 72 or we would have gotten Kyler at 96. Liam says, do you guys prefer Marv over Garrett and JSN? One thing that I saw that's interesting. So you can actually go and check out the projections that Underdog has for the NFL season-long stuff. And I think this is actually kind of valuable because... Ooh, this is a good... I haven't even seen this. This is a good pick 'em. But like, if you look at the projections that Underdog puts next to the players, like J.K. Dobbins for 80.6 fantasy points. I think everybody's going to look at that and go, oh, Dobbins is going to very easily score more than 80.5 points. I want to take the higher. But you realistically can't. So Underdog could be wrong with those projections and it wouldn't matter whatsoever. Where they have to be somewhat accurate is going to be their season-long pick'ems. And you can go through and check these out. The Sure Sanders one, higher, lower, 2.5 regular season wins is funny. Jackson Dart, this tells me that you should never take Dart. If his higher, lower for regular season game started is 4.5, zero interest in taking this dude. But realistically, if you go through and you look at Justin Fields, he's higher, lower 14.5 passing touchdowns. Higher, lower 2,500 passing yards. That's hard to get behind Garrett Wilson if that's going to be the passing volume in New York. Looking at the receivers, let me see if they have Marvin Harrison lines in comparison to, projections in comparison to Garrett Wilson. They have Harrison higher, lower 950 yards, 6.5 touchdowns. They have Garrett Wilson lower than this. They have Wilson 4.5 receiving TDs, 950 receiving yards. Okay, we got very close to getting Romeo Doubs making it to us for the Jordan Love stack, but he does go 2 picks before. So we cannot take a tight end. We are just quarterback, running back, receiver. Cam Ward, we need a third quarterback. He's going to start, and we can go with an option late. Where else do we go here? Probably Adam Thielen for some boring points. Trav Snow says that 14.5 makes my Garrett Wilson share sad. Yeah. Realistically, let's look at the projections for every single one of these early third round guys. Because like I said, it is very much a flat tier at the end of the second round, the beginning of the third. Let me see if they have a Rashee Rice one. That one would be super interesting. They have Rice for 5.5 receiving touchdowns, 874.5 receiving yards. So lower yardage mark than Wilson or Harrison, but higher touchdown mark than Wilson. They have T. Higgins for 7.5 receiving touchdowns, 965 receiving yards. They have Tyreek for 7.5 receiving touchdowns, about 1,000 yards. They have JSN for 6.5 receiving touchdowns, 974 receiving yards. And for the love of God, never take these things. If it's like JSN most regular season receiving yards, yes, 13.1x multiplier. I'm ignoring that personally. Ladd McConkey, a little over 1,000 yards with the projection, 6.5 receiving touchdowns. Davante Adams, 8.5 receiving touchdowns, about 900 receiving yards, higher, lower. And then let's see what Terry's at. Terry is actually at the highest yardage mark of any wide receiver in that range at 1,000 receiving yards, 7.5 receiving touchdowns. So not great for my Terry fade, but great if you've been drafting him. Maxwell says, is your pick'em streak still alive? No, sadly. It got ruined on the drive to Texas from California. Okay. Tutu Atwell goes 184. Nick Chubb off the board as well. Diami Brown goes. So if we're looking at what we're doing in the rest of this draft, we're just taking one more running back and we're taking... Actually, maybe we're taking 2 more RBs. RB 48, 72, 73, 97. I don't know. We're for sure only taking running back and receiver. We have 4 picks left. We can get up to 8 receivers with this team, and we went wide receiver 1, 25, 49, 96, 121, 169. So the very minimum, we're taking 2 more receivers. We're possibly going to take one more running back or two more running backs, depending on how we feeling. Justice Hill, Hunter, Giddens is probably my favorite RB here. We'll mix in Miles Sanders. And then after Sanders, we will take Tyler Lockett. We know we need somebody to pair up with Cam Ward. And let's see what Teague's team ended up like. Teague drafted at 11. Went Ginty, Bowers, McMillan, Evans, Kamara, Walker. So only having McMillan and Evans through the first 6 rounds is definitely bold. Kupp, the Baker pick at 86, you can't afford, in my opinion. Like to have 3 wide receivers through the first 7 rounds, being Ted McMillan, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp. I think here you have to take Brandon Ayuk over Baker. Because then you get put in this little box where you're having to take kind of these gross receivers here. Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a... I'm not saying my team's good, my guy. I think my team probably advances over yours or is more likely to. But I don't have strong correlating assets. But I just don't think you have enough wide receiver production to go anywhere. Damon says you got to take Wicks in round 18. Yeah, F it. We'll take Wicks. We'll take Wicks round 18 for our 8th receiver. And if that doesn't work out, we'll queue up some of these other guys. We're definitely going to get a wide receiver or running back. Ooh, I'd rather have Hunt over the majority of these players. But most likely we're just going to get Dontavian Wicks or Savion Williams to pair up with Jordan Love. But let's move over to another draft. That one, no bueno. We botched it. Let's get into BBM. After this, we have 91 Best Ball Mania drafts left. How many days? Let me ask ChatGPT. How many days until the start of the season? We get pick 3. More comfortable spot to be in. Not really. Okay. What? How many days until the NFL season? We got 80 days until the NFL season. I have 91 BBM drafts left. So I can average 1 Best Ball Mania draft a day comfortably. Which is a little bit concerning. Michael missed it. I'm sorry, my friend. Sam says thoughts on weekly winners. I've never been good at weekly winners. I've only drafted maybe like 5 teams in the past. But this year, I'm going to try it out. I'm drafting some slow weekly winners teams at the moment. I'll see exactly how much I get crushed. And if I have any success with it whatsoever, I may hop into some weekly winners on the live stream next year. But as it stands right now, I'm not going to try to convince myself that I know what I'm doing. We'll take Barkley. Definitely have been bumping up my Barkley exposure. At one point, I was only down at 4.5%. And I know I've talked about this a ton, and you're tired of hearing me say it, but I do think it's a lot more advantageous to go early running back now than it used to be compared to the with the context of what is available at the 4 or 5 turn. Okay. Puka goes ahead of Gibbs in this draft. McCaffrey off at 8. Paul says, what's the SFB satellite? It's a Scott Fishbowl satellite. I don't know exactly how many teams get it, but if y'all have heard the Scott Fishbowl, if you win, you get like a ticket in. It's a charity thing. So like, don't enter the FSB satellite thinking that you would ever win anything. I mean, we can just go ahead and pull this up right now. Underdog shows that there are $0 in prizes on it. $100,000 in entry fees to Fantasy Cares. Top 510 win an entry to SFB 16. So it looks like top, so 5% of the field, a little bit more. Braden says, feel like I'm overweight on CMC, even with him rising, but that 9-10 slot is brutal. Let me see how much McCaffrey I have now. I have McCaffrey in 11.5% of my drafts, but I've taken him in some high stakes ones. So even though I've only had him in 11.5%, he is my third most invested into running back from a dollar spent perspective. AJ Brown makes it to 20. We'll take Bucky at 22. I feel like taking Bucky this year in round 2 is just so much worse than taking Achane in round 2 last year. So if I wasn't gung-ho drafting all the Achane I could last season in round 2, why am I taking Bucky? Bucky's underdog pick'em's higher, lower, 1,070 rushing yards. What's Jacobs at? Jacobs is slightly ahead, but you assume Bucky has more involvement as a receiver. McBride goes. Let's take Tyreek. We need a receiver. Look in the projections. Tyreek does project out very well. The FSC guys are absolutely in on him. Maybe it's just Tyreek was injured last year. Maybe it was just Tua was injured last season. And if we can get back to where we were 2 years ago, we're just fine. Now, the concern with this, and y'all know I'm always the guy to bring up age, which I know people don't like me doing. If Tyreek Hill was 28 years old, I would be in on taking this dude in round 1. I know that sounds crazy, but I would be willing to say, oh, he's 28. Clearly, he was just hurt last year. Clearly, he was just impacted by Tua being hurt last year. He's going to get right back to where he was. However, for a 31-year-old wide receiver to see that kind of fall off in efficiency last season does seem like typically when you do have that fall off, it always comes with the excuse of, oh, I was just hurt. So we'll see. Peter says, did you turn a profit last year? Are we still coasting off the win a couple years ago? I talked about this and I actually showed the results that we had with advancing teams. But technically, we lost money last year in these underdog drafts, which again, if you look at just the structure of overall tournaments, will be the outcome for about 90% of drafters. We got really close to a big win. Our advance rates were incredible. The issue is I was in those $500 drafts and those $1,000 drafts, and I did not get to the finals in any of those, even though our advance rates were very good with them. But just in weeks 15 and 16, we didn't get to the finals. I did get into a BBM finals, which looked like it was going to be great for us, but my BBM team did absolutely nothing. So here you can see last year we advanced 34 Best Ball Mania teams. Super good advance rates with the high stakes stuff as well. And we advanced 41 sprint teams as well, which to my knowledge is more than anybody else did. But once we actually got to the big dance, not much happened. We'll take Travis Hunter. We're very much incentivized to just go through and take wide receivers here at the turn when we start running back out the gate. Okay. I may have on the clock Cortland Sutton goes 47. Steve says, would you take Burrow here to block the team with Chase? Me? No, of course not. Why would I do that? I'm not going to... Let's all be... Oh, I'm easily... Hampton in round 5 is an auto pick. I do not care that I have 2 running backs. Hampton in round 5 is an auto pick. But let's all be on the same page here, realistically. Because I've heard some people with this rhetoric thinking like, oh, you need to block another team from doing this or they're going to win the tournament. What the hell are you talking about? If I'm in a $25, if I'm in a $3 entry, it does not matter. I could not care less about trying to make somebody else's team in the draft worse if it comes at a cost of me making my team 1% worse. Well, yeah, I'm kind of going up against these other 11 drafters in weeks 1 through 14. And reality, in the overall tournament, I'm going up against 670,000 people. If I try to focus in on making another team worse at any detriment to my own team, I'm only doing myself a disservice. 100% of your attention, 100% of your dedication in these underdog drafts should be to your team and your team alone. I'll look at other teams to try to figure out like, oh, can I pass on this player and get him on the way back around in round 5? What do I think that this team at pick 71 is going to do? What do I think they're going to do at 74? But I'm never thinking like, oh, I need to block this team from getting something. Maybe like in the flock league, I could think of something like that if I wanted to poke Sal and mess with him or something. But not in an underdog tournament. Okay. And I'm not saying this like as in don't be mean to other people. I don't give a damn about the other drafters in here. It's a selfish thing. It's like selfishly, you should be focused on your own team to make your own team better, to give your team the best shot of winning. James Conner goes 67. If we take another running back here, we may go with the hyperfragile build. Okay. Harvey goes 68. Let's see what Jen Wax does. Hell yes, we get Jerry Jeudy. Let's go. Let's go. Jerry Jeudy is our third wide receiver. We needed a wide receiver desperately. Jeudy was the last guy in that tier. Oh, this is a good team. This is a good team. Happy to see you out here, Mind Tricks. Okay. Moss says, Underdog Twitter refuses to let Burrow get back to the 101 in round 7. I'll say this at risk of having a lot of people mad at me, but I don't know if Underdog Twitter's ever won anything if that's their mindset. Myers goes Swift off the board as well. So does Stephon Diggs. All in all, we are highly incentivized to go wide receiver with having 3 running backs as is. Judkins off, so we will take Ricky Pearsall. I think Sam Laporta can straight up outscore Pearsall, so I don't love the pick. But looking at some of our quarterback options, we are going to be limited at this point. I mean, we're in round 7, haven't drafted a quarterback yet. Taking Jerry Jeudy doesn't really give us access to a quarterback later. So up until this point, we really only have like Tua and Trevor Lawrence like as targets for ours, but us taking Ricky Pearsall does open us up the door for Brock Purdy. So we will go ahead and take him. My trick says Pearsall over Laporta for me there, so good pick. If I was in a spot in which I like, instead of taking Amari and Hampton in round 5, say like Hampton Witt at pick 47 and I got Cortland Sutton at 51 instead, I probably would have gone Sam Laporta over Ricky Pearsall. I just think our team really needs a receiver. Like we go running back round 1, 2, and 5. Okay, Ayuk off 79. Nick says, Mason trying to tell the FSC guys like you, how are you getting the promo? So if you've been using the extender, just whenever you go to pick them, since I already used it, it will be at the top. If you haven't been doing it, maybe you don't have it right now. But if you have the extender promo, which is the one that I've been using, it's like right above the popular players, which obviously looks a little bit different on your phone if you're on your phone. Like these would be the pick'ems for tonight, and the extender should be right there, and it's like an 80% profit boost. Which if you do the math, I mean, the reason Underdog only lets you put $30 on it is if you have an 80% profit boost, the math behind it means Underdog's losing money and you're making money. Hey, stop. Travis Snow says, are you still picking Bucky there if you knew you were going to get Hampton at 51? Like, what's the alternative, Rice? I know it's like definitely we're leaning heavy on running back with that kind of start, but I like Bucky at that price, so I'm fine with it. Especially knowing that we get Jerry Jeudy at pick 70. And Jeudy at 70 makes me feel much better about the selection overall. Super Center goes Mahomes. Mahomes was going to be in play for us at 94 because we could have gone Mahomes and then Kelsey on the way back. And again, going back to what we were talking about previously, we aren't in the best spot when it comes to our quarterback optionality. I guess we could go Baker to pair up with Bucky if we really wanted to. God dang it. I really wanted Pittman there. Take Jaden Higgins at 94, give ourselves another opportunity for a different quarterback later. If we get like Baker falling to us at 99, maybe we stretch it having Bucky here. But again, that's not going to be ideal for us. I mean, with Baker, we could also look at Jalen McMillan late, but I absolutely hate McMillan. I've taken very little of him. And I guess you have Kate Otten late as well, which we don't have a tight end yet. So we'll see. Team goes Najee. I'm going to take Baker. One thing as well, and obviously this is never plan A for me, is like to take Baker without Egbuka, Godwin, or Evans. But when you have so many of these different options for Baker to spike with, you could see a Baker 300 passing yard, 4 passing touchdown game where he spreads it out, where you get Bucky Irving with the receiving touchdown, Kate Otten has one, Evans has one, Godwin has one. And it's not like you get a singular nuclear game from any of the receivers, but Baker still does extremely well. It's not a concentrated offense, really, now that they add Egbuka in. So we'll take Baker at 99. Do I feel great about it? No. Would I do it without Bucky? No. But it is what it is. And yeah, we are going to have to take, or at least target Kate Otten and Jalen McMillan later. And maybe we should have just reached on Purdy for Pearsall, but as he says, Rashad White also in play. That is true, but not ideal. I don't want to just have like Baker and his running backs. Okay. If we were to go with a quarterback here in round 10, like hypothetically, if we were to go with Caleb, we are done drafting QB. But if we were to go Caleb, then we force our hand into having to take Loveland in the 11th. Caleb goes 112. Walden says, man, I wish I drafted more CMC when he was going early second round. He never falls past 9 anymore in my drafts. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I'm stubborn, like whenever drafts start and I like have a really bad take and I'm like unwilling to adjust. Like one thing that I should have been willing to adjust earlier is once you saw the Rashee Rice rise, I should have gone all in on Rashee Rice in the middle of the 3rd round. Sadly, I didn't. We should have though. One thing that surprisingly we were able to adjust to very quickly is like the first draft I did on this live stream, my first BBM draft. My first draft of the offseason. close to zero research, close to anything. Y'all know I've drafted almost no Trey Harris, but here he falls 14 picks past ADP. We need to give ourselves another quarterback. We have Amari Hampton as well. We could go Justin Herbert, pair him up with Hampton as well as Trey Harris. But one thing that we adjusted to quite well was the CMC rise, where like my first draft ever this offseason, I took Drake London over McCaffrey. And then the second I did it, I was having to try to explain it to y'all why I did it. And then I realized, yeah, that's bad. Yeah, I should not be doing that. And then I immediately had to adjust. Luther Bird and Marvin Mims both go. So the thing about taking Herbert here is, are we done at quarterback? Looking at the Bucks, where are they? White 142, McMillan 158, K. Dotton 182. So none of them are anywhere close to being in play for us. Quarterbacks later, we could have Tua, we could have Lawrence, we could have Stroud. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go Javonte. This 100% could be a mistake. It could be that we should just take Justin Herbert here, not overthink it, pair up Justin Herbert with Trey Harris and Amari Hampton. However, because we have so many other quarterbacks that we do have the optionality with, such as like Herbert, Lawrence, Stroud, Tua, I think we're going to roll the dice that we get one of those guys on the way back around, which for sure is not guaranteed. For sure is not guaranteed. Okay. So now running back, we have Barkley, Bucky, Hampton, and Javonte. Wide receiver, we have Tyreek, Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris. Quarterback, we have Baker paired up with Bucky. Obviously, we are going to have to go through and target the guys like K. Dotton, Jalen McMillan later. Okay, Trevor Lawrence goes 132. Javonte's a bad pick. I don't even like Javonte. Why am I taking him? I should have gone Herbert, or should have gone with the guy I actually like in Loveland. Okay, Kincaid off 134. Stroud goes 136. I figured we actually dodged the Nico team. Who does this team have? That team, actually, no, that team has Nico. Never mind. They just took Nico early in round one. And Tua would not be in play for us at 142. So if we were to go with another running back here, we were going to be done drafting running backs. We should have gone with Justin Herbert in the last draft. I'm sorry, in the last round. The decision to go Javonte was very bad. We completely botched it. Jack Besh doesn't have the good training camp reports. Didn't like him before the reports came out. And we already have Travis Hunter, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Amari Hampton on the squad. I don't know if we're wanting to add the fifth rookie. Trey Benson is my most drafted running back. We may take Dallas Goedert. We could go White and just let's just go White. We botched this draft. We'll monopolize that backfield, and we're just quarterback, wide receiver, tight end through the rest of this. What I should do is I should probably take a look to see where Waddle is at. And the thing with Tua, okay, 5-6. This team is Daniels, Mahomes. They're done taking quarterbacks. What about Jonnu? The Jonnu team has, that's the same team. What about Achane? That's the same team as well. They have every Miami Dolphin. They have every single Dolphin to the point where I feel like realistically, there's no way a team with Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes should go with a third quarterback. But with that team sitting with Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, and Jonnu Smith, I would be worried that they end up doing it regardless. So I'm going to take Tua here at 147. The only way our team's good at all is if we have Tua nice and healthy for Tyreek anyway. So might as well double down on that bet. Let me see. How many drafts have I taken Javonte in? So I can say like, oh, I don't like Javonte. I don't like Jaden Blue, but yeah, I have Javonte in 6.6 drafts. So I am very much underweight Javonte from an entry fees perspective because we have not taken many high stakes drafts. From a percentage standpoint, it's kind of whatever. Slightly underweight. And then I'm still underweight Jaden Blue at 5.3%. So I'm underweight on the Dallas running backs in general, which is another reason why maybe I'm like sympathetic to hearing that Miles Sanders may be decent at week 17, week 18. I'm sorry, not week 17, week 18, round 17, 18. After we go to yeah, like all the quarterbacks are off the board. We probably want to take a third QB here on the team where we go QB pick 99 and 147. We're done drafting running backs though. We are only quarterback, wide receiver, tight end. God dang, how far did this thing scroll back? Thank God. Oh, whew. Us getting Jalen McMillan here, even though I don't like McMillan, massive save of this team. Us at least being able to pair him up with Baker. So we have Baker with the running backs in Tampa, and we have him with McMillan as well. We need 3 tight ends and possibly another quarterback. So we're possibly done at receiver with Tyreek, Hunter, Judy, Pearsall, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Jalen McMillan, which does not feel like a good enough wide receiver room to say we're done at receiver. I kind of prefer Hunter Henry over Britton Strange. I actually do prefer Henry over Strange. We're going to go Hunter Henry. Okay, and let's move this down. Fuji Apple says, I'm sorry, Ice Mike says, have you done your NBA picks for tonight? Okay, so big thing with these NBA picks, I've showed them a bunch, but I do want to reiterate, I would only advise you to tell me if you have the extender promo. If you're able to use the 80% profit boost on these picks, go for it. If you don't have the 80% profit boost on these picks, I'm not going to be abdicating for it because I don't know at all what I'm doing with this NBA pick'ems. With the 80% profit boost, if you look at the math behind it, you are at an advantage. And that's why Underdog only allowed me to put like $30 on it. So this is what I did for those. We go Chet higher than 24.5 points rebounds, Shea higher than 2.5 block steals, Pascal Siakam lower than 36.5 points. I flexed this, so we only have to get 2 of these right. If we get all 3 right, we win 151. It was like a $30 entry. If we only get 2 of them right, we win like 40. And then obviously if we get 0, 1 right, we lose the $30. So I would. Vinny says, hey, Mason, I picked 3 to parallel BBM. I didn't pick Javonte. Am I cooked? You're probably in a good spot, my guy. Mike says, is it crazy to think Judy's a round 4 pick? Looking at the receivers going in round 4 with like DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Jameson, I don't think it's crazy. If you told, like, the thing is, Flacco's like 42. So, I mean, there's no guarantee whatsoever that Flacco's as good this year as he was in the past, right? So, if you told me you had like average passing volume in Cleveland, Jerry Jeudy would be a smash, not only where he's going, where we take him at the end of the 6th, but he'd be a smash in the 4th round. But Jerry Jeudy and Chris Olave have the same problem. And that's their offenses project out to just be horrible. Ice Mike says, I'm tailing and we'll see if this goes wrong. Thanks, Mason. Appreciate you, my guy. Again, I flexed it and I would highly recommend it if you have your 80% profit boost token for the game tonight. If you have your 80% profit boost token, I think it's almost a bad thing to not use it. I will say it is a bad thing to not use it if you look at the math. We're going to go Kate Otten at 190. We're built around the Baker builds. So now we have $5 with Baker, Bucky, Rashad White, Jalen McMillan, Kate Otten. Should be a very unique Baker Mayfield build at the very minimum. Is this a team where we end up only drafting 2 quarterbacks? Which, given our 2 QBs, it feels very bad. We'll take Chig 195. A says I'm at 47% exposure to Judy with the assumption Kenny Pickett's the starter. I have, you know what's hilarious? It's my little brother asked me, he was like, what are the Browns going to do at quarterback? I was like, I have no idea why. He was like, well, I mean, are they going to trade Flacco or something? They have so many. I'm like, okay. Let's be on the same page here. The Browns went to the dumpster. They took out all the trash. And if y'all ever worked at a restaurant or anything and worked with one of those dumpsters and you throw it, y'all know there's that slime at the bottom of the dumpster. They got a scraper. They scraped that slime up. And that's their quarterback room. Now, what they decide to do with that slime, they have a lot of it. I mean, they have Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Pickett, Shedeur Sanders. It doesn't matter what direction they go with. It's slime. For Judy, I would say probably the best thing would be Flacco. But again, Flacco hasn't started 8 games since 2017. The dude's 40. So what can we realistically be excited about? So again, like my thing is I think quarterback play is going to be garbage regardless. But also at the same time, like some of the other players in that range, like Olave. Like if Olave had good quarterback play, like I think you make an argument for Olave to be a 4th round pick. I know people absolutely hate that. And I'm not going to make the argument for Olave being a 4th round pick because he has garbage quarterback play. So I think he's fairly priced in round 6, and I'll probably take him. And same thing with Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Judy's fairly priced in round 6, and I'll mix him in. Okay. I have no idea what to do here. I just don't know if like Tua and Baker score enough points for us. I guess the only way this team works, and I've hated both our Best Ball Mania teams we just drafted. I don't even know where to go at this point. We either go wide receiver or... Honestly, F it. I'm going to take Tyler Shock. Maybe he advances us, because I don't know if we have enough points to advance at quarterback. The only way this team works is if Baker goes nuclear. But it's weird because we don't have Godwin, Egbuka, or Evans. We went to the Bucs offense and we took the slime out of the bottom. We have Bucky, McMillan, and what? Kate Otten, Rashad White, DeAndre Swift. But I think that's all we got for this. Hopefully I actually get to go watch the NBA game right now. I think I'm actually going to go meet Sal on 6th. I wanted to tell y'all real quick the update that we had from yesterday. We had the complete debacle with the HVAC, which I already told y'all about. Then this morning, I tried to do laundry. My little brother decided to not tell me that the dryer's been broken for God knows how long. So I tried to put my clothes in the dryer. It doesn't turn on. The belt's off. So I realized like the HVAC's completely broken. It's going to be 100 degrees in Austin today. Not 100, but like 95. And at the same time, the dryer's now broken. So I have to fix the dryer. Well, this morning, I could not have been in the worst mood. A worse mood. It was hell. It was horrible. However, Radiant Heating and Cooling came out. They fixed the HVAC. The dude did it for free as well. I was so happy. I was like, give me your Venmo. Let me Venmo you $100. This is the best thing ever. And then your boy fixed the dryer. So to open up the day, our AC didn't work. The dryer didn't work. 12 hours later, or about 10 hours later, both are fixed, and it's phenomenal. But Mr. Padilla said he had to get a new HVAC last weekend, 15K-ish. That's the biggest fear of my life. But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and I really hope I get to see y'all tomorrow night. Obviously, we're back to streaming every single day. We're back in the studio. I appreciate you, and I really hope I get to see y'all out with the live stream tomorrow night.